podcast is a member of WildGamesProductions.com and D20Radio.com.
Between the time when wargamers played with chainmail and the rise of the Wizards of the Coast, there was an age of gamers. And unto this, Gygax, destined to bear the crown jewel of TSR upon a troubled brow, to show you all how to roll for initiative.
The Roll for Initiative Podcast, Volume Number 2, Issue Number 97. DM Vince sitting here alongside DM Will. Will, how are you doing this week?
I am doing awesome. It's been good, believe me.
And Will is the only one sitting in the chair today this week. It's just me and Will sitting side by side doing the show this week. But we have two special guests on. Two former freelancers from back in the Mayfair did some of the Roll Aids work. Specifically the Undead Roll Aids one. Number 737 by Mayfair Roll Aids. I have Laurel Nicholson and John Keefe on the line. Laurel, how are you?
Doing great.
And John?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
They graciously decided to come onto the show and answer a few questions and tell us the inside scoop that they know back what happened during the day. So some people found it interesting, and we found their stories interesting, so we decided to share it with you guys on the air. So we'll start with the first question, and you guys could switch back and forth who wants to answer it first or second, and I'll let you guys decide. So how did you get started as a freelancer with Mayfair?
Well, we ended up going to that first convention. What was the name of the convention, John?
It was the Chicago Wargamers Convention, and it was back in the early 80s, I guess, before they got rid of the convention.
And so we'd been playing a lot, and so we thought it would be fun to go to one of the conventions.
Right, and we played a game that was done by one of the Mayfair writers, and we must have been bad gamers. We couldn't figure out what to do. We couldn't even get out of the first room.
Well, that's because we ended up, it was so funny because we had a bunch of us that used to play the games, and we went, and one of the guys that we played with ended up completely usurping the way that the designer wanted the game to be played. And he ended up there were droids, and he created a whole droid army and took over the town. And the designer, the writer, didn't know what to do. He'd never seen anybody or any of this coming in any of the testing that they'd done. So we ended up spending the whole day there. It was pretty funny.
But not accomplishing anything. So anyway, we were talking later on, and we didn't like the way it was written because we couldn't figure out how to get out. It had something to do with computers, and none of us knew anything about computers. And so Lori said that we could probably write a better module than this, and I poo-pooed that because I'd never written anything in my life before. But anyway, she decided that we should do it, and she wanted to do a module about the upcoming election in Chicago for the mayor, and we'd kind of do a spoof on it. And so we wrote it up and sent it into TSR. And were promptly smacked down by them real fast.
I think TSR back then had their own writers. I don't think they were that interested in taking new ideas or new writers at that time. And even, it was pretty funny because I think one of them said, "This reads like a parody." And of course we thought that was so funny because it was a parody.
Oh, nice.
But we didn't really know a whole lot about Chicago politics, I guess, because we had the winner of the primary there, Harold Washington. We showed him found dead in one of the rooms of the dungeon, and he ended up winning. So it was kind of funny in that.
Wow!
But it actually was one of, I think, of all of them that we did, it was one of the best that we ever wrote. It was Deadly Power, and it was a really fun game to play.
So you said this to TSR, and they said, I don't think so. So then you went to Mayfair?
Right. And we worked with Corey
Glaberson.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they said pretty much the same thing when we sent it in, but they were really nice about it. They said we can work with this and we can get it going, and we got that one published, and TSR, like Laurie said, they had their own people, and they probably got thousands of submissions all the time, and they didn't want to work with us. They wanted something to come in. I would assume that would be pretty much polished.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. So, how many things did you wind up getting published when you were with Mayfair as a freelancer?
I think we had about 4 published. We had the Deadly Power, Elven Banner, the Monsters of Myth and Legend 2, and the Undead.
And was there anything...
It was lots of fun.
Was there anything that you did submit that didn't get published and you wish that it probably should have got published?
Everything we submitted got published, but some of it got left out. Like there was an adventure that linked all the different mythos and monsters in Myth and Legend 2 that they didn't use. They didn't have any room for it. I would have liked to see that published. And I think there may have been a second adventure for Undead that I really liked, but I'm not positive we submitted that or not. I know I have half of it here, but.
Oh, really?
So they might have done it. Plus, we were writing a book, and at that time they weren't too interested in the book, so we still have a partially written book that we'd like to finish and get published.
By all means, you should do that. With Lulu and everything now, you practically do it on your own.
Yes.
Yeah, things are a lot easier these days.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Will.
Just, real simple. So we're talking about the very beginnings here. You as a freelancer, when you was a freelancer working with Mayfair, did you all work out of your homes and have a secondary job?
Right. We both had secondary jobs. Laurie had a computer, so she would type everything in and write her stuff on the computer. And I'd hand her notes, handwritten notes of scratched out, really horrible, and she had a...
Nice.
I've always been a writer, so I was working as a writer back then, or an editor, and so it's always been something that I've always done. So this was pretty easy. John had some great ideas, and then we could incorporate them in and kind of move from there.
I think the ideas were all Laurie's, the main ideas. I just wrote monsters and encounters and magic items, but the basic setup of most of the modules was her idea.
Okay. Looking over at the Undead book that you both had your hand into, you wrote me, John. You wrote me originally about this and about the Sword of Griswold.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that name? Because you were telling me about that in the.
Well, I was telling. I didn't like writing names. I used street names and names of neighbors and things like that. And so, but I may have seen that movie and used the name Griswold. I know they didn't use the names of the I forget what the offspring of Night Bay and the Adventures. I named them all, and they were all named Cleaver, like the children were the Cleavers, and they took that out. But that. So I could have been inspired by TV shows and things like that.
I remember we had a question about that sword, too. About the number of times per day you can use it, and it seemed kind of weird.
Yeah, we either didn't write it very well or it got edited poorly. But what I did, what it was really for was the end of the adventure that I wrote was supposed to be where you come out with all the dwarven treasure, and then you face like 250 dwarven slaves that were being controlled by some moon scourges and whites and things like that. And one of the ways you could get through these tightly packed dwarves was if you thought to pull out the Sword of Griswold, then the dwarves would notice the sword, and the charm would be broken on them, and it'd help you out, and you wouldn't have to either kill them or push them out of the way. They were all, I think, one hit to kill. And so it was really a plot device, and they changed it more into an incredible sword that we didn't write. Oh. That if you swung it, I think a swath of undead 10 feet wide would all perish and things like that. So yeah. It was a little different than I intended.
Well, I think what confused us the most is where it said it gave off all the stats and it said can be used twice per day. So you can only use the sword twice a day.
No, the holy water twice a day, assuming you would have to refill it somehow. I have a feeling these swords wouldn't be very durable with little squirting things in the hills. But
So then, with that all said and everything, y'all's relationship with Mayfair as freelancers, was it a difficult relationship? Because, I mean, I remember Mayfair from 1981, doing Settlers of Catan and all that other good stuff back in the day. You think they concentrated more on board games? Did they really care about the role-playing aspect?
When we were working with them, they were very focused on the role-playing, and we had a pretty good relationship once we started working with them, and they were pretty open to things, and it worked out pretty well. At that time, I think they were competing more with TSR. They were trying to and build up on that to do more, and then, of course, the lawsuit happened, and that kind of changed a few things. But basically, they're working pretty hard, I think, to be pretty strong competitors.
Yeah, I don't think we had any real problem. With Undead, they did a lot of extra editing that we didn't like, but I mean, they gave us the chance, and it was a lot of fun working with them. And I think in all the modules, the editing was a little not really good, because Laurie asked when we did Undead if we could see the galleys so we could proofread them, because they'd leave out room numbers and things like that. But
oh boy,
but it was a great experience. Completely.
Like the drawing of the one-armed man that we were questioning in there.
Oh, we're going over that again?
I swear to God, it was like a one-armed man.
Was it one-armed man?
That picture of that dwarven character, where is it?
The skinny dwarf.
Was it a one-armed man?
Well, I suggested that it could have been Fallon, the lead NPC, who had one arm, and then they just changed it. But I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, it's on. I'm trying to find the page here. I'm flipping to it. It's on page 12, and it's also on the back too.
Yeah, but I think Will is right that they used to be a really good game company, board games.
Oh yeah.
And then they went into this endeavor. I don't know. And I talked to somebody from Mayfair recently, and he told me that they were really happy. They don't own the rights to them anymore, but I wanted to know who owned the rights, and he said they were really happy with all their Roll-Aid stuff, and it was a good moneymaker for them.
Well, Wizards of the Coast, I think, owns all the rights now at this point, since they bought it from TSR.
Yeah.
So during the time, so let's go back to 1987 here, when City State of the Overlord was coming out, and Gary Gygax wrote the intro for that. Did you have any interaction with Gary at that time, or did you speak with him or talk to him at all?
No.
No, I did sell a miniature. I sell miniatures on eBay. I sold one to Elise Gygax, when a dungeon lady with a pet dragon, and she told me that she was actually the model for that, and I know she was in some advertisements for TSR too.
Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Yep, she was quite a few.
She was real young back then, wasn't she?
Yeah. It looked like the miniature was like a teenager with a pet dragon.
Yeah, she did a lot of ads for TSR back in the day. I wonder why. Sometimes I don't think she's happy about it too when you talk to her about it.
Really?
You spoke briefly about the lawsuit that happened between TSR and Mayfair. What effect did it have upon you guys during the time when you were submitting things? And did any of the rules change? Were they more lenient? Were they more strict about how they did it? What went on during that?
The lawsuit was in the 90s, the real lawsuit, but they had some kind of agreement that they made, I guess, with Mayfair, and we had to change, I think, a little bit of how we wrote. We had to start using stamina and appeal and things like that, and that's when we had to use Thaco. You guys call it Thaco. We used to call it Thaco.
Well, we actually call it Thac Zero.
I don't.
I say Thaco.
I assume you're pronouncing it right. But yeah, we had to put more stats in, and that annoyed me when we had to do it with the monsters. I think in Deadly Power we just wrote stats, and then we put the 6 stats. And they were in the proper order. You didn't have to put the Constitution or anything like that. And that's about the only thing that I can think of. They changed the the covers a little bit too.
Yes.
But that's about all I've noticed. I don't know.
We really didn't have a lot of interaction with the lawsuit or anything like that. They pretty much kept us out of it, just told us what we needed to change.
So when you came up with things like the HTK and things like that, or I believe that's some of the abbreviations were used in the book.
Right. I think we used hits to kill.
Yeah.
In all of them.
Now, what year was that? Was that in '93? The lawsuit?
I think the lawsuit was in '93.
Right, I was just checking it out. I'm just making sure the right one. And basically their claim was copyright infringement, trademark infringement, false designation and misappropriation, unfair competition, and breach of conduct, all arising from Mayfair's use of its products or TSR's Advanced Dungeons & Dragons trademark. Wow.
I think one of the things with Undead was that the Dragon magazine did a review of it, and Mayfair, in their advertising, used the review, and the review said it was a Dungeons and Dragons product or something like that, and they didn't like that at all.
We thought it was great.
So when you did as a freelancer, they obviously, you asked you to do the book and they paid you. Did you still get any money afterwards? I'm not asking for an amount, but did you still get money to this day for the book, or?
We used to get royalties, and we haven't for many years now. But I noticed they're all still on sale on Amazon, so I don't know. Maybe we should check into that, John.
I think those are probably being sold by third parties. But
yeah,
I think we got surprised once they released it in Germany or in Europe, and they sent us an extra check, and we were real surprised by that.
I know back in 2005 or 6, Mayfair had a whole bunch in the warehouse and just said, we're selling them for like $5. Here's the link. Order them up as much as you want. Limited, once they're gone forever.
Right. I think all the collectors jumped on that and bought every Mayfair item that was out there.
Okay, Will, you want to go for the next couple questions?
Sure.
Will?
Okay, I'm here. I was just listening to everyone and just trying to absorb everything that's being said.
Go on with the next
one.
Okay,
So you want me to ask the next question?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Number
when
4.
TSR, booted Gary.
Yeah.
And redid the game and decided to pull the whole Demons and Devils theme from the game. Mayfair then released the Demon box sets. Do you think they did this to keep that element in the game as TSR went mainstream?
Yeah, I think Demons are... I don't particularly like them, but I think people love them. And it would be a good marketing strategy to come out with Demons once TSR got rid of them all. That I would think that might have been a reason they did it. But I don't know if we were asked to do anything like Demons. Laurel,
no, we were never involved in that part of it. We would have been, we would have jumped at anything they wanted us to do.
I thought they asked us to do one more, and nothing happened with it, but I can't remember what it was.
Okay. It was another one of those, like the Myths and Legends or something like that.
Myths, okay. So I guess that closes up the question, are you involved with the Demon box set? So I guess that's no. You did say earlier that you did submit some things to TSR. What was it exactly that you did submit to TSR?
That was just the first one we did, the Deadly Power. And they just weren't very receptive. So we thought it was, we enjoyed writing it, and we thought it was a great game, and we figured somebody else would want it, and Mayfair did.
Oh, cool.
Oh, I bought the stuff for sure because I liked it, because that was an element that was kind of absent during that time period.
Definitely.
Back then, I used to buy a whole bunch of non-TSR things. I really liked some of the early Judges Guild, and the Companions modules were some of my favorites.
Oh, yes,
they were really hard to DM, but they were great modules.
Was there anything else you tried? Did you ever try submitting to TSR after that, or you just said, nah, never mind?
I think Mayfair.
I think we stayed with Mayfair pretty much. And then, when was it? I think it was in the early 80s when remember when the religious attacks started coming and people were saying that Dungeons and Dragons were crazy and
evil,
demonized.
Yeah.
And then the sales kind of dropped then, I think, because a lot of parents didn't want kids playing. And then that kind of went away. But I think that really interfered with, I think, some of the profits for a while.
Wow.
Well, I would doubt. Yeah, it did have a big effect on all the profits for TSR. I know that. So next question we have here is, John, you actually contacted us via email. So how did you start listening to the podcast? Was it because of the review of The Undead and it caught your eye, or you just happened to see it and was like, oh, cool, and decided to listen? Or
every once in a while, a couple of years ago, I started selling all my stuff, and I realized, I don't want to sell this stuff anymore. It was all pretty cool, so I stopped selling it, and I'd Google like Bizantra or Verdice and things like that just to see what came up, and then just about 3 weeks ago was it, or a month ago, something popped up that wasn't just a kid using these names or things in their games. It was something real. It said a podcast. And what is this? So I had to listen to it. I thought it was pretty good, and I told Lori about it. And she enjoyed it pretty much, too.
Now, did you enjoy it because we covered the content, or was it because of me and my silliness?
Oh, yeah, it was all you, Will.
We love the silliness. What was it where you were putting ketchup into something? And was that the...
That was Nick and all of them. And everything. Yeah.
That was so funny.
Well, it was funny. That's sort of Griswold. The first thing that came to me was National Lampoon's Vacation.
Yeah.
I said, no.
That's what we kept saying, Griswold.
Pronouncing the name, we were laughing. It was lots of fun to listen.
I think you guys do a pretty good job.
Well, we try our best. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you guys?
And it's fun because we wrote these a while ago, and you tend to get on with your life and forget about them, and then you hear other people are still playing them or looking at them, and it makes it so much more fun again.
Oh, definitely. Brings it right back to the day.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still freelancing?
Yes, well, I still have a writing business. So doing some stuff, trying to get more things published, and John and I trying to get this book published one of these days. Maybe we'll do it ourselves.
Can you tell us anything about the book? Or
the book was actually based on one of our best adventures ever, and we just, after a while, John wrote a ballad about it, and we ended up writing a whole book. We're about halfway through the book now about it, and it kind of sat for a while, and now I'm back to it.
Huh.
Yeah, I've got a couple of little modules I write off and on, and I'm writing a story for my website that just a spoof of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and that. But without Lori, I don't get pushed or anything. She kind of ran the show and told me I had to have the stuff done and things like that. Without her, I just take my time, and so,
she was cracking the whip, right?
Yeah. But I was going to send one of these into your contest, but obviously being on the show, it wouldn't qualify. But maybe I'll just send it in.
Sure, we'd love to share
a little late and see what you think about it.
Which contest is this?
Your contest.
You're the Roll for Initiative contest.
Oh, you're talking about the one for the free books?
For the free books.
Oh,
but
yeah.
We would definitely love to share it with everybody because they'd love to see it.
I mean, we haven't received any submissions. Who knows? You might be the only one to submit something.
Well, maybe I could win if I'm the only one. But I think I'm disqualified otherwise.
You're not disqualified, not at all. You're not part of...
No, neither of you are disqualified. No, absolutely not.
Oh.
Only staff is disqualified, that's it.
Oh, good.
Uh-oh, a professional module coming your way, Will.
No, I like that. I like to throw stuff, my personal stuff your way, and y'all take a look, and then you all take it from there.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind looking at stuff. I'm kind of getting into D&D again.
Excellent. AD&D.
I know, it's just so much fun. what was the most fun is when we started Undead, it was the whole idea was to create this whole world, and you get to the best part of writing is you get to create a whole world with characters who, if you could change life, it would be that easy. You make people do what they're supposed to, and in modules you can do that to a certain degree, and how certain people should act. If you do the right thing, and it was just very enjoyable that way.
All right.
So now, the undead thing was actually a whole world revolved around undead, am I correct?
Yes.
And, an area of the world that they took over their...
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Oh, you know what? You probably took my criticism concerning how I was looking at the military organization of the undead.
Oh, that's right.
That was the one I did. That's why I remember that now, because I said I would have done the undead a little different, but I liked how they did the setup with all, the leaders of the undead and so on. I wonder if TSR was thinking about this when Ravenloft was coming out. They thought this was a threat to Ravenloft. I'm just wondering.
Could have been. Very good question.
Oh, actually, I mean, just having that kind of a land. I played the Ravenloft module, but I can't remember much about it. Was that in kind of a world, separate?
Well, I6 Ravenloft was just an adventure.
Yeah.
Right.
But then later on, they did create the Ravenloft setting, which then became a demi-plane where it was run by undead.
This came out in 86. That came out in, 92?
Right, so I'm just trying to figure this all out. If this is something that was in the works, I have no idea.
Unless Lorraine had a vision of 6 years advance, I don't think so.
Yeah, who knows these days?
So what's the one thing you want if you could look back and change the Undead book and in whatever piece you want to, what would you change about it, John?
I think I'd put my ending in. That's the main thing. But other than that, I think it turned out pretty well. When I look at it, I say there's certain things that I think didn't work out that well. And did I write this? That's garbage. Or I think we used hideous, the word hideous, like 3 times in the first page. But then some of the monsters and magic items we wrote, and even the spells, I think are really good. Maybe a little geared toward high-level players, but I think there needs to be more good stuff for lower-level players. But I really like some of the things.
All right, and Laura, what about you? What would you change about it if you could change anything?
I was pretty happy with the way it turned out. Like we said, there were a few things, like how the Griswold sword was supposed to be used, but and how it came out. But basically, I thought it ended up very, very well done.
Excellent. Okay.
My question, do y'all still have the original manuscripts, or did you have to turn everything over to Mayfair and it became their property?
I have a copy of everything from Undead, except for the new monsters and spells and magic items. I have the whole adventure and background.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure Laurie and I have the whole galleys. I'm sure Laurie somewhere has got all the rest of the things.
It'd be interesting to see what it looks like compared to what it is in the print here.
Right.
I think you had more maps too. They didn't put in, didn't you, John?
I'm not sure. I didn't look at the maps.
I think you had a lot more maps.
Yeah, they probably ran out of room too.
Quite a few maps. I'm looking at 1, 2. 3.
So then, with the stuff they didn't use, does that revert back to y'all's property, or is it still property of Mayfair's, or what have you?
I've been trying to find that out, but now that you say Wizards of the Coast owns it, maybe I should contact them because in the basement I know I have the whole adventure for Monsters and Myth and Legends, and I'm sure Laurie has the other adventure. I have half of it, and I'm sure she's got all of it hidden away somewhere.
I'm not sure, John. I have to look.
Yeah. But I would love to. I'd love to buy the stuff back if you could buy it back cheap. Maybe.
Or at least if we could print one, another one as a follow-up, we could do that.
Right.
I'm trying to see if by looking here who actually owns it. But last I saw was Wizards of the Coast owned it, but I don't think they're doing anything with it. Yeah, Wizards of the Coast owns the copyright.
Okay.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they still own the... I'm looking at the trademark and copyright. What is it, the Federal Trade... yeah, they still own it right now. They're still registered under their name, so...
That's unfortunate because I see a lot of potential for this material to be re-released through Kickstarter.
Interesting. They own Mayfair and everything, but they don't own... They let Rolaids itself expire, so...
Did Rolaids expire?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. They have Mayfair and TSR, but Rolaids is expired.
Oh, so we could do it, John.
Maybe you can pick it up.
That'd be nice.
You need a copyright lawyer probably to take care of all this. Yeah. Anyway.
So, Will, you were saying that as addendums or what? What were you thinking?
Well, I mean, Kickstarter has been doing really well for some of the from some of the companies out. I don't know if you all kept track of the the D20 glut that came out. There was a company called Necromancer Games. Are you familiar with Bill Webb?
I'm familiar. I've heard of Necromancer Games.
Right.
I'm not familiar with the person.
Well, what happened was Necromancer Games went defunct, and they created Frog God Games, and they're taking from what I understand now, they're taking all of the old material that was in D20, and via Kickstarter, they converted it over to Pathfinder and Swords and Wizardry, and that has proven extremely successful with them. Like I said, it all depends on how many people, pledge to that, that project and everything, whether or not it's going to be successful or not and everything. And I was just wondering if you could take your material again, but since it's owned by Wizards of the Coast, I don't think that's going to be possible because you will have to have rights to every bit of the material because you can't use it in the Kickstarter.
Well, but if Rolaids isn't part of that anymore, if it went defunct, or they don't have part of ownership of it,
yes, I would look into it. I mean, this is y'all's material. This is your lifeblood to the gaming community. And believe me, there's a lot of fans out there that love your material, and we would love to see it, come back out or reprint it or however y'all want to do it. That's y'all's, ballpark right there. But believe me, I'd be the first one, to go on there and use PayPal or whatever to get the material.
Yeah, you don't even have to use the Rolaids name. I mean, why not just
I'm a huge fan of y'all's work. I love y'all's work. I thought the artwork was great. Do you all keep track of the people that did the artwork? Who did that?
That was
I don't know. I like the artwork.
It was listed in the book as interior art, Jeff Bush, Tiana Burtz, and Gerald O'Malley. Maps done by Jem Klaus.
Mayfair hired those people, so I don't know.
Oh, they were freelance. Okay.
Well, they may be freelancers, but we didn't know them.
Oh, okay. If you did, you would have talked to him about that one-armed dwarf or whatever he was.
Right.
That kept making me laugh. The one-armed dwarf. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be marked in my mind forever, and I'll be thinking about it when I go to sleep tonight.
Maybe we'll have a special game just called the One-Armed Dwarf now for you.
And you guys were laughing at the fact that it was like, oh, they put him that way so they wouldn't show his package. I was like, why would they do that?
Oh, that's right. Those were the naked character ones, right?
Yeah, and you guys kept saying, well, if he was front ways, you'd show his package and his goods. I was like, well, that's kind of silly. Why don't they just draw like a piece of rope around him or something?
Or they could have put a bush in front of him?
Yeah, or something. I was like, yeah, the picture looks like he has no other arm. And you guys are like, oh, it's there. It's on the side. I'm like, where?
Oh, Lord. That's too funny.
Oh, boy. Anyway, so I guess as a final question is my surprise question that I always ask people in my interviews. So we'll start with John, the first one. If you could be a household appliance, which one would you be and why?
I guess I'd be a TV because then people would be watching me all the time.
They'd be entertained by you.
Oh, my goodness. Listen to this.
And Laura, what about you?
I don't know. I guess I'd be a blender. Just kind of blend it up, mix it up.
There you go. In my former days when I used to ask that question on another podcast I was on, one of the people said I wanted to be an iPhone. We're like, how is an iPhone a household appliance?
I guess
Whatever.
really a TV isn't an appliance either.
It's an appliance.
Oh, no, just TVs.
It's
these days.
That's true.
That was Mr. Eddie Webb from White Wolf Publishing that actually did that. You know who he is. Anyway, so Will, you have any questions to end this?
Oh, no, I just want to say that it was an absolute pleasure speaking to you, too. It's an honor, to speak to someone from the old days, not to be offensive or anything, because if it wasn't for people like you that did that freelancing work and everything, I don't think that the fantasy game side of the house would be as broad as it was.
No, definitely.
Oh, well, thank you so much. We loved it.
Yeah, it was great fun. Thanks for having us on.
We definitely appreciate you writing in and listening and laughing and reminiscing and then agreeing to come on after saying, nah, I don't know.
I have a good question.
Oh, there we go. Go ahead, Will.
I have an excellent question.
Uh-oh.
Do y'all think female dwarves have beards?
Oh, jeez.
Oh, definitely. Are you kidding? Of course.
I thought they all
But
did.
they're lighter. They're not as heavy.
Okay. That's awesome.
Much
And-
thinner hair.
Oh, and what about the other question? Do orcs have pig faces or not?
Oh,
Orcs do have pig faces. I think the earliest miniatures for dwarfs all had pig faces.
Or in Will's case, pigs with orc faces.
yeah, I've seen pigs with orc faces. I don't know why I did that. I messed that all up.
I think they were just homely, and some people mistook them to look as pigs.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Anyway, thank you for joining us, and hopefully you guys will listen in and maybe join us again some other time with some more comments and questions or whatever.
Yeah, we'd love to. Anytime.
Great.
Yeah, it was great fun.
All right, thanks for joining us.
And I also gave you a plug on my story, too.
Oh,
I put one of my characters is wearing a Roll for Initiative T-shirt in it.
That's awesome.
So,
What's your website, John?
www.leadminiquarry.com.
Let Mini Pour, you said?
Lead Mini Quarry, like lead miniatures, and a quarry, like a rock quarry.
And Laurel, do you have a website or something that you maintain, a blog or something people could follow? Or
No, not yet. Not now.
See,
So-
she's old school. She's old school. See there? I like that.
Yeah, remember when we were writing these, she wanted me to get a computer, and I said, I'm never getting a computer.
Never ever say never.
And now she's old school.
There you go. The roles reversed. All right, thank you guys for coming on the podcast, and we appreciate it. I'm sure our fans
Thanks
do
for
as
having
well. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Typical. Of all the evil creatures in the world, I'd like to find one with table manners.
What, are you kidding me? I spent years cultivating the worst table manners on the planet.
Table manners.
Okay, so we're here in Table Manners this week, and actually we're going to sit back and actually just talk a little bit about the new reprints that have been announced. As people have been posting in the forums, they are going to reprint the Unearthed Arcana finally, too. What do you think about that, Will?
I think that's awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm a little shocked that that's the next book that's coming out, because I figured if anything they was going to release the Monster Manual 2 and the Fiend Folio and then go to Unearthed Arcana.
Well, it actually kind of makes sense if you think about it. They published the core books, which we all love, and now they published Unearthed Arcana, which is basically optional rules, according to what Gary said when he printed the book. So that would be the next logical step.
Yeah, but see, my logic is like this. Where were Drow Elves at? Drow Elves were mentioned in the Fiend Folio. And I figure if anything, since they have the complete stat blocks and description of Drow Elves in the Fiend Folio, that they would have the Unearthed Arcana after that, at least that, so that when they start talking about Drow Elves in the Unearthed Arcana, then you have something to reference to as far as their special innate abilities. I know the Unearthed Arcana covers a little bit of that stuff, but, just a thought. I just figured, that they would have that first.
Oh, yeah, probably. I would assume that it would probably come out soon, because they are releasing the A series and the S series as well of modules.
Yeah, that was actually another surprise to me as well and everything. And again, I can understand the A series. That makes sense because, hey, alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, so on, and A series, A1 through 4. That's good. Now, did they say they was going to release it like the Slaver module as a whole module, or are they releasing this in a hardback format, or are they releasing this separate modules each? I don't know. Understand yet what they plan on doing. Do you have any idea?
No, as far as what I was posted was they were just going to release them as modules, reprints. I'm trying to find the announcement.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing those modules, especially the Tomb of Horror one. That needs to be reprinted again.
Oh, the S series. Now, that's going to be good if they do that right. If they do it where they were the individual modules, they will do great then because they had all of the material, because the S series was lacking a lot of stuff when they put it all in the compilation.
Oh, that's right.
So, yeah, I'm not a fan of compilations.
No, but some of them do well by bridging a gap between the modules, so it helps the DM instead of you just doing it on your own. Oh yeah, well they did that with the Giant series and actually gave it some storyline finally, but it worked out perfect. Like I said, I'm looking forward to all of it coming out because I'm buying every bit of it. Yeah. I meant to ask you, Thor Camera's modules, do they go in line with the Giants modules at all? I really didn't. This is embarrassing to say this, but sorry, Thor. I never really looked at his modules and everything. My issue is I can't justify spending money on modules unless I actually look at them and physically see what I'm dealing with, because I'm just real particular about that. I think those are free, though, right? No, actually, he was actually selling them. He is actually selling them. I forgot if he had it, gave out an example. I have to look at third-party modules. I have to look and read them to see if they fit within my desired needs for it. I'm real picky about modules. I'm very picky, especially from third-party. Yeah, the A series and the S series are being released in a hardcover. So maybe it's going to be in one compilation. Oh, it is a hardcover. Yeah, it's released in hardcover in March or April next year. Well, it is what it is. Now, they could do it hardcover, and I'm glad you brought that because I got something else to ask since we're on the subject on hardcover. If they do hardcover and they do them individually, that'd be perfect. I have no problem with that. I would love that. I think that's awesome. So what's your question? Well, the question is, I just went to the gaming store yesterday, as a matter of fact, to see what came in last week and everything. And, of course, not too much come out, just a couple board games and some miniatures come out that I picked up. And I picked up some of the X-Wing, that Star Wars game, picked up some of that stuff. But I saw a new Forgotten Realms book that came out, a new hardback book. Oh, yeah, okay. And I am not sure what that book belongs to because I don't know if this is for the next version of D&D. Are you familiar with that right now? The D&D Next? Yeah, because this is, it said Ed Greenwood's Forgotten Realms, and it's a new hardback book, and I don't know what it's for, but I didn't have time to look at it. Just didn't know if you knew anything about it. No, I don't know anything about it at all, because I don't keep up with the newer editions. I think maybe it might be a bridge, like to clean up what they screwed up. Well, yeah, I know that they're trying to do something like that. I'm trying to figure out where it was at, but I just don't see it online right now, where it's at here. I just can't find it right now. I need to call down there and find out what book it was. Well, they're also redoing the second edition reprints now, finally, too. Oh, they are? Yeah, it was announced they're doing the core second edition books. Oh, my goodness. That's going to be a lot of stuff they're releasing all next year. I'm looking on Amazon. The Slave Lord series is a compilation, but it says A0. There was an A0? I don't know. That's something that I will have to take a look into again. Because if I remember right, the Slavers, wasn't that second edition or is that first edition? The Slavers? Well, that's first edition. It is first. Yeah, they had it in a second edition format. That's what my concern is. Because I know they released some of those for second edition. Well, I'm looking at A4. I have A4 on my shelf here. I just pulled it down. And that is definitely for first edition. Oh, yeah, A1 through 4, definitely first edition. But what it says here on Amazon, selling it, $38, by the way, for the compilation. It says A0 through A4. Yeah, that sounds weird. And if you're looking at Scourge of the Slave Lords, that's the compilation for first edition. I keep saying Slavers because I'm thinking of the second edition
thing that they released. There goes. In 2000, Wizard of the Coast released Slavers, which was a sequel adventure for second edition AD&D rules, and that took place 10 years after the events of A1 through 4. So I was getting the two confused for some reason. Yeah, that's weird. But it says here Yeah, that's weird because it says here A1 through 4 for the Scourge of the Slave Lord. So I don't know why it says that.
And then they have the S series listed as Dungeons of Dread compilation, S1 through S4. And that is $30.72 at this point.
Whoa, how much is the Slave Lord one?
$38.
That's actually not bad.
But that price will go down as people order it. That's the good thing about Amazon. As you order it, the pre-order price always goes down.
Now this stuff is going to the stores, right? This ain't going to be just an Amazon thing, right?
Well, it's listed on Amazon right here. So, take it how you want to take it. I mean, I'm sure they'll probably it'll probably go to the store, but your best bet is to get it off Amazon.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a look at that. That's interesting. So if it's how much is it on? $38?
$38 for the A series and $30 for the S series.
Yeah, that just doesn't make no sense. I just don't understand the price.
I don't. It's supposed to be a hardback compilation of the 4 modules.
Right.
I don't know if they're going to write like a little bridge to the different modules like they did with the Giant series, like you said.
Yeah, this is just interesting how they're doing this. I just can't grasp it right now, why they're doing what they're doing right now. It just doesn't make no sense to me. It's going to be a hardcover. So I guess it may not be the compilation. They might do the separate modules. It's just going to be interesting how they do it.
We'll see. Well, I'll definitely have to see. What do you predict next they're going to print out of the reprints? Or what would you like to see?
Well, with first edition, I want to see all the hardback books getting released. I definitely want to see. Well,
really?
I mean, like darn it, can. But I think as far as the adventure modules, I definitely like to see the C series.
The C series, yeah. Oh, like the competition series.
Oh yes, I think they're great modules. I like the C series. I like the I series. I like any of the first edition modules. Tomb of the Lizard King. I definitely love to see that redone. Or the Pharaoh series was another great series. I like to see all those get released. They're just excellent modules. You know what? T1 through 4 wouldn't be a bad idea either.
That might be a good idea.
I just don't know about the deities and demigods yet. I don't know what the deal is on that yet.
I probably think they're going to print the Legends and Laurel with the deities and demigods. For some reason, I have a feeling that's what it's going to be. I don't know why, but I just have a feeling that's what they're going to reprint.
Yeah. I just hope sales will justify the rest of the material coming out. I want to see everything get released for first edition.
Well, I don't care. Who cares about the Dungeoneers and Wilderness? No, I don't use those, so I don't care about them.
Yeah, those I don't really care for either. I didn't really care for that. First edition, I didn't use any of that.
That turns it into like second edition almost with those stupid skills and everything I hate.
That's right, folks out there, it does.
1.5 edition, as much as people are sitting there in their chairs going, it's not 1.5.
I can't, I don't know why people have to, label everything as another edition. And this is not, people have a right to say what they want. Everyone has their personal opinion. There is no 1.5. Oh. It's a first edition, second edition, 3.0. There is a 3.5 because it's denoted on the book 3.5. Then it's fourth, and that's it. There is no 4.5. Pathfinder is not 4.5 or 3.75 or whatever you call it.
Yeah, it was 3.75, yeah.
I can't remember what they called it. I don't know what they was trying to say. Well, whatever it is, I ignored them. I said, whatever. To me, it's Pathfinder. Pathfinder is just that. It's its own game. Just like 3.5 was alone and so on. And they tried to justify with, like basic and expert and class. They started at 0.15, then, 0.05, then 0.01. Come on, stop. Stop labeling these things. It's either basic, expert, classic, blah, blah, blah.
I don't know. Most people consider, like in second edition, they consider anything with the Splat books 2.5 edition.
Oh my goodness, no!
I've heard many people say that 2E is just the core books and the monster manual stuff, and then when you start getting into the Splat books, it becomes a totally different game. 2.5, they say.
Let me tell you when it becomes a different game. When you have a different set of rule mechanics, it didn't change anything. It's still D&D. You're still playing a wizard. Now your wizard gets to carry a sword. Whoop-dee. Now it's D&D 2.78 or 2.5. You know? No, I never looked at it like that. That's all minutia to me. I mean, honestly, give me a break. Now, I will tell you this, though. When they were at the very end of second edition, you can agree with me on this, is when they came out with those, remember those books, the last 4 or 5 books, you know which ones I'm talking about.
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
That was when 3.0 was going to come out. That was the dawn of 3.0 with those set of books that came out, and I can't remember what they're called again. It was the last 4 or 5 sets before its second edition came to end, and then they announced that 3.0 was coming out. Then you knew that the game was going to change. I would have considered that 0.5.
When they started bridging the gap between 2.0 and 3.0?
Yes, those set of books at the very end. There was like 4 or 5 of them.
The conversion books?
They was converted over. That's when you knew that something was happening. You just didn't know yet what it was. Yeah, they started adding all those crazy things in there, and I said, this is not second edition. That changed the game because that manipulated a lot of the rule mechanics and all that other stuff.
Like the Challenger D&D set or something? Or
forgot what it is. It's in the room. I was going to run back there, but since we only have 2 people, I'm not going to run away and look at it.
All right, so let's clear something up here. Will, they were talking the initiative episode we had when we talked about initiative. People were a little confused over what your method of initiative was, and I just wanted to clear that up with you.
Oh, man, that is so funny. Yeah, and you know what? That's my fault. You know, like I said, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I'm just as fallible as anyone else. Nah, not as much. No, I'm just joking.
Oh, boy.
No, what happened is, my friend, when they asked the question, what happened was, I think Matt said something about second edition, and my train of thought went to second edition. That's when I used the 10-sider. Remember that part?
Yeah.
And no, let me make it clear right now. When I play first edition, you will have a 6-sider for initiative. When you roll initiative, then we do all the little other stuff like the weapon speed or what segment the spell goes off and all that when it goes into the next whatever. That's how I do initiative in first edition. I roll a 6-sider. When it comes to second edition, I use a 10-sider.
Right. And do you use that combat chart, that addict thing that was out for a while?
You know what? I don't even need addict. Let me tell you why I don't need addict. Because back in that day, oh my goodness, who made that chart? It was first edition. I talked to Frank Mentzer about it. He was the one that told me they only made like 400 or 500 of them. Mm-hmm. I got the combat wheel.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The old plastic combat wheel. And those things are very rare to come by. I have like 3 of them in there, and I think that's what I used.
I don't know. I couldn't justify reading 30 pages just to learn how to do initiative.
Well, you know what? The guy that did Addict, I give him kudos to it for actually going there and then doing all that stuff and everything. I see some issues with it, though. I can read the DMG and get it much faster than going through the Addict.
My method just is real simple. The lower a number goes first. You add, if you want to use weapon speed, you add it onto that. Or spell segments, you just add it on to that, and that's it. And that's how you go. And then people were like, whoa, what happens if it's greater than 6? Well, then you just, every round is 1 through 6 with 10 seconds, so the next round would start at 1 again, right?
Yep.
So then, say the group rolled a 2, and you go on an 8, because you're casting a spell. So that means you would go on segment 2 in round 2.
That is correct. 6, 7, 8. Yes, that is exactly how it should be done. So, that's just the way it is. And if you want to cast spells like Call Lightning, which I believe takes 1 turn, or if you want to cast, what is the other one that takes a turn? Not a wish. What is the other one? There's another one that takes a turn to cast.
I think Fireball's up there with the amount of time it takes.
No, Fireball's actually pretty quick, ain't it?
Well, I thought it was like 6 segments or something.
So regardless,
I don't know.
And so yeah, I believe it is. It's just been a while since I looked at those spells and remember things.
I don't memorize things, so I always look things up in the book. I know you took it up so much, you should know. Well, I don't memorize the book. I'm not a book nerd.
Insect plague is 1 turn.
What's that?
So insect plague
Yeah.
And that's only a 5th level spell. And that's like 1 turn. Control weather is 1 turn. So conjure earth elemental is 1 turn. Now, let's be realistic. A good portion of those spells you probably won't be casting in the middle of combat. Because once you get damaged, the spell gets disrupted, you're done.
Yeah, exactly.
So you usually cast those spells long before combat starts, but in the event you do, well, it is what it is. So now, when you take weapon speed into consideration, because I believe someone had a question about that. Did you see that?
No.
About the halberd and the using a dagger?
I don't use weapon speed and armor. I don't use that stuff, so...
Okay. Well, these days, we will discuss weapon speed and how weapon speed... Did we already cover weapon speed before?
Yeah, we have a bunch of times.
Okay, just making sure they know that, because his question was, well, what happens? The halberd is a reach weapon and the dagger is not. Oh, here we go again.
Well,
so it's up to
the reach weapon is going to hit before a dagger is going to hit, unless he's throwing it.
Hand-to-hand combat, the halberd will attack first. That's what I would rule on that, regardless of weapon speed.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't care what the weapon speed is. You're closing into somebody. He's got that reach weapon. He's still going to close in faster than you close in.
Right. Now, of course, there's some exceptions to the rule and everything, but since we're not going to cover weapon speed, I'm not going to cover it.
I would say, initially, the halberd's going to win, but once you close in, the person with the halberd's going to have a disadvantage because he's going to have to back up or pull the halberd back really far to get that shot in on a person that's really close.
Yeah, that's how I see about it and everything.
Doesn't that make sense, right?
Say again?
That makes sense, right?
Makes sense to me, as long as they don't try that realism thing. Well, if our weapon is 18 feet long, well, that's 18 feet long. I'm glad. Nah, it's just another thing and everything.
All right. Well, there you have it. There's the show for this week, issue number 98. We're only 2 away from the big 100th episode, which actually is going to land on, I think, the Halloween weekend.
Yay!
If I'm looking at the calendar, right? Yeah, it'll end up on the 28th of October, which would be number 100, which would be the Halloween episode. So we're going to be doing a Halloween / 100th episode, looks like.
Well, that's going to be good.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to talk about. Maybe we talk about some undead or something. We'll figure it out.
Yes, that would be awesome. I was just trying to look here for Wizards on the latest releases here and everything. But I just don't see that something right now. I just can't find one that Forgotten Realms book.
Yeah, I bet if you go in their forums under product release, you'll see what you're talking about, the book.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look for that. I just have no idea.
Well, let's end the show. Keep it original, keep it old school, and good night, everybody. We'll be back next week.
See y'all later. Bye.
Roll for initiative.